Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world, and today we're learning about simple interest. So what is interest? When you borrow money from the bank, like let's say $10,000, you have to pay the bank a bit more than $10,000. You actually have to pay to borrow the money. So that's when you borrow money, paying interest. Also, when you invest money, sometimes the bank will pay you. So they might have, say, a fixed term deposit where you put $10,000 into an account and you can't touch it for a year or so. The bank gives you money because it wants to use that money and it wants to entice people to actually do that. Now, important to note is that some of the questions you get regarding simple interest will be about someone borrowing money and some will be about investing money. Whichever type of question it is, the calculation for interest is exactly the same. Simple interest is, as the name suggests, very simple. What will happen is you'll start with a certain amount called the principal. That's how much you either invest or borrow, and you just find a certain percentage of that. So for example, you might borrow $5,000 at 10% interest. So 10% of 5,000 is obviously 500, so you pay $500 in interest for each year until you pay back that money. So there's a very simple formula to use. So the formula is I equals PRT over 100. As I'm sure you remember, when we don't have operations listed, it just means time. So this is I equals P, principal, times rate, times time, over 100. Very simple to do. Let's look at an example. So let's have a look at this question. It's very similar to many questions you'll get. So I invest $2,000 at an interest rate of 5% per annum, that's what the PA means, per year, for 4 years. So we simply use the formula that we have above. So I, the amount of interest that we're going to accumulate in that time, that we're going to earn in this case, because it's an investment. So I equals P, principal, how much you started with, 2,000, times the rate as a percent. So the rate is 5%, times 4 for 4 years, and then divide that by 100. The answer you get is 400. So if I invest $2,000 at 5% per annum for 4 years, the amount of simple interest I will earn is $400. So a closely related, very commonsensical formula is that the amount in the account is the amount of interest that you've earned, plus P, the principal, how much you started with. So if I invested $2,000 in this account, at the end of 4 years, I would have the $400 interest plus what I started with, $2,000, okay? So there'd be $2,400 in this account. So if the question asks you calculate the interest, that is what we did down here. And if the question asks you to calculate how much money I'd have in total, that's what we did up here, okay? Very simple. So I'll go through another example with you now. So I borrowed $30,000 at 7.5% interest per annum for 18 months, and I want to figure out the fortnightly repayment, okay? So there's a very important point I have to make with questions like these. So the time and interest rate must have the same units of time because the rate would be, 7.5% per something, per year, per month, whatever. It needs to be in the same units as whatever the time is. So the problem we have here is that we have 7.5% per annum, so the rate is years, but the time, the length of the loan is in months. So the only difference is we just need to make an adjustment for this. We're still going to use the formula I equals PRT over 100. So I equals P, principal, how much we started with. So 30,000. Now we times by the interest rate, 7.5. But we can't times by 18, that would be ridiculous. They give us a ridiculously high number. 18 months is actually 1.5 years. So we just times by 1.5 instead of 18. Now the rate and the time, the length of the loan, are both in years. So we can just use our formula as normal. So that equals 3,375. Okay, so that's the amount of interest. Now the question didn't ask us though to calculate the interest, it asks what's the fortnightly repayment, okay? So we have to figure out how much the person has to pay back in total. and that's the A equals I plus P formula. So the interest was 3,375. So that means that the A amount in total that this person would have to pay back is 33,375. So if I want to figure out how much they pay per fortnight, we'll have to figure out how many fortnights. So there are 26 in a year, so there would be 39 in 1.5 years. 1.5 times 26 is 39. So the total fortnightly repayment would be A divided by the number of fortnights. So in this case, it would be 33,375 divided by 39, easy as you like. So when you're rounding, you can round it to 2 decimal places for cents or round it to the nearest dollar. I really don't care. It's about $856 per fortnight. Okay, easy as. One more example I need to show you. Okay, so remember our formula is I equals P times R times T over 100. So in this equation, there are 4 unknowns, I, P, R, and T. If you know 3 of them, you can find the 4th one. So we're going to look at an example of that. So let's say I have a question like this. I want to earn $5,000 in interest during the next 2 years. The interest rate is 4%. I have to figure out how much I invest. First thing when doing questions like this, figure out what exactly are we trying to find. So how much must I invest? How much must I start with is saying I want to find what the principal is. So to find what that is, I really only know this formula. I haven't given you any others. All we do is put in what we do know into this formula. Okay, so we know that the interest we want is 5,000. Okay, and that equals P, whatever that is, times R, which is 4%, and time is 2 years divided by 100. Okay, so 5,000 equals 8p over 100. So as you know, this is just a linear equation. To get p by itself, we undo what's already been done to p. So p has been times by 8 and then divided by 100. So what we do is we take the 5,000 and then to undo it, we times that by 100 and then divide by 8. And that will give us p. Using your calculator, you just get that equals 62,500. So that means if I want to earn $5,000 in interest in 2 years at an interest rate of 4%, I need to invest 62,500. Now you go through a very similar process if you want to find R or T. All right, hope you found this video informative. Have a great day.